everyone, I'm Pooja and I am a recent graduate of the Stanford GSB. Alright, cool. So, a lot of you guys want to get advice, thinking about how I might have gotten into an MBA program, what I did professionally, how did all these things align? And I'm not able to reach out to you one-on-one, so I thought, let's do some videos. Alright, cool. So many times when one of you guys reaches out to me, you've already stalked me, which is pretty impressive because we didn't have that ability to do that when I was in undergrad. If we did, I didn't know about it, nor did I use it. Okay, so what people will typically see is Pooja went to an undergraduate business school. She went to NYU Stern, great. She did 5.5 to 6 years in consulting at IBM. She worked in artificial intelligence. She worked across continents, pretty cool. And then, well, you typically don't see that I took a 1.5 gap year, which, you know, has its own, was a personal decision. And at the time, I had no plan. So it wasn't like I did this and I knew I would eventually end up applying to business school. I actually was anti-graduate education at that time in my life, which goes to show you how things can change, but also like, you know, there are many things that convinced me to go to school that I will, you know, if you guys are interested in, I can go into. And I ended up going to Stanford GSB for my MBA. And it took me 2.5 years to finish it because of the pandemic, and I took a gap semester as well. So now I'm working and it's not even updated to see what I'm doing now. And on paper, it might look like I have it all figured out. I had it all planned. Pooja had it all together, like look at her doing these things. You might think that, you might not. A lot of people are impressed by these little things and logos on my resume. All this to say, I don't like it when I appear like some crazy foreign unicorn when people look at resumes, and I want to level set the fact that I'm just an average human being with some big dreams and a lot of grit and a lot of hustle that has probably ended up in these places. When I look back, there are definitely some things, some qualities about myself that I cultivated that I think were actually superpowers that made me rise relatively quicker, professionally, academically, than my peers. So the thing that has probably been my superpower has been my ability to walk into a room completely foreign to me. I might have had zero experience, zero knowledge, zero exposure before, and I can become smarter on that topic than the average person very quickly and be valuable. I did that professionally, I did that academically, and I do that personally. How that translates. So when I started at IBM in consulting, I worked in a lot of different industries very quickly. So I worked in healthcare, I worked in finance, I worked in government. I had no experience. I had no experience in any of those industries, like none. But I entered those rooms and I became very smart on those things relatively quickly. Being able to get smart on something very quickly, like very, very quickly, quicker than average, which is really what matters. But how, and like that doesn't really, it's not because I was born a genius, because I was never one of those kids that was born a genius. I didn't have the highest IQ in my family, my brothers have, but what I have had is this intense desire and curiosity about the world that makes me constantly taking classes, formal, informal, about anything and everything. I was that girl and I don't know that anyone knows this story, but when I was at NYU, they give you a list of required classes. So you enter into college and you're like, okay, we have to take all these classes. And I would look at the list and I'd be like, okay, like, but I don't want to only learn this stuff. Like, I am paying so much money for this education. I also want to make sure I learn all of this stuff. So I'd look at this course calendar and I'd be like, oh my God, I actually want to learn all these different things. I'd be like, ooh, I want to learn producing. It was not related to my finance major at all, but I'm an artiste. I want to take acting. Can I also take all of these classes in addition to the required classes that I have to take? If I'm here, I want to take all the classes that I could possibly afford. Why am I paying all this money? So that concept did not make sense. So I rejected this expectation that I'm only going to take required classes. I was like, that's not education. That's not why I came to this school. I'm going to take all these classes. Most professors, because they're big lectures, they didn't pick up on this. And I did not tell friends that I did this until after I was done doing it. Because if someone blows up your spot, then you want to take this class and be like, actually professor, like Pooja's not in that class, and then you don't get to go into it. There was one professor, the sharpest professor that I ever met at school. His name was Professor Ashwini Agarwal. I don't know if he remembers me today. Two professors that are just rock stars in finance. They're finance gods. Professor Ashwini Agarwal, I know they're on, whose lectures, by the way, are all online right now, and they're phenomenal on corporate valuation. He's like the godfather of finance. If you want to learn something, you gotta learn it from someone who's like the godfather, right? Like, why would you not want to learn from a godfather? I was sitting in his class. My friend TJ actually sat to the left of me. And when I sit in class, so this is also one thing that got me caught. I don't passively sit in a class. Like, I have questions, I raise my hand, and I'm like, but why? Explain this to me, I don't get it. And there might be a very basic thing that a lot of people get. And I'm like, you know, help me understand this basic concept. I know that it might be something that, you know, everyone here seems to get, but I just don't. And so I would be that chick in a class asking those questions. And so he took notice of me and my questions right away. And so like not even half, like a good amount of the semester went by, and I get a call from I get a text message from my friend TJ. And he said, you know, Professor Agarwal, he found out that you're not officially registered in this class, and he reached out to me and he said, you know that girl Pooja who sits next to you, can you have her come see me? And I was like, okay, do I go see him? I do want to finish this class. I need to know more about corporate finance. I love it. So I go see him and I'm like, look, real talk, I'm not registered in your class. In my mind, I'm like, professors should be, if I was a professor and I knew this young woman came to my classes, did all the work, was so engaged, I mean, like, excellent student, like, I'd be like, amazing. We need people that learn like this in this world. Like, he was like, look, I was like, look, I really want to take your class. I want to take it from you. If I came back after my next semester, like, I wouldn't get to take it from you. And I know I'm not getting a grade, but I like made my whole case. And he looked at me and he was like, I have no problem. Take the class. Just for life of me, promise you will not take the final exam for anyone. And I looked at him and I was like, what? What? I did not even think that I would be able to take the final exam for everyone. My mind just does not work like that. I was like, you're telling me that I can come to your class and do none of the exams and you're okay with that? Like, great. So there's this one desire to constantly learn and learn things I want to learn. But I think what has made my superpower even stronger is that my interests in things I want to learn about are very, very widespread. Sewing, improv, languages, Indian classical dance, classical percussion. I'm constantly in formal learning or informal learning for. So either I'm taking a real class on it or I am self-teaching it through some sort of platform. I'm constantly in these rooms where I am the least knowledgeable on a topic that makes me feel like I'm back in preschool again with these wide eyes, like learning and asking questions and genuinely getting my mind to stretch. Like, it just constantly is stretching. But what happens is when I am in Indian percussion class trying to learn the rhythmic cycle of a certain type of rhythm in Indian classical stuff, it's super mathematical. And it's like hearing I hear foreign sounds and I have to make sense of them. And not only do I have to make sense of them, I have to be able to recite them myself and then teach it to someone else. It's constantly taking these obscure, really difficult subjects, like that I have no knowledge of, and constantly trying to master them. What ends up happening in my professional life is that I am totally comfortable entering a complete room of software developers and I'm not a software engineer by trade, but be able to hear what they're saying, to be able to understand what they're saying pretty quickly, relatively quickly, to someone that doesn't have a whole lot of software engineering background, be able to internalize that, digest it, reimagine what it means to me, and then be able to eloquently articulate it and get everyone on the same page. And that skill of constantly learning, having intellectual curiosity, but then learning in all different ranges of things, whether it be music, artistry, finance, like everything, it's able to make me go into a lot of different rooms, without a whole lot of fear and discomfort, and learn and become valuable in rooms. And that is my superpower. Everyone can do. I think everybody has that first experience, that humbling experience after you go after college and you start working and you're like, wait a second, like I've been doing all these things for so many years, I'm in this excited life, and then you go work and you're like, wait a second, like I feel like I'm dying a little bit, or like I'm not maximizing my potential. And like I did this assessment about like what this was, and I was like, I'm not learning anything anymore. I stopped learning. And my mom's like, well, look, you have money, so why don't you go do something with it? Go invest it in yourself. I was like, okay, all right, I can get behind that. And then that's when I went and I took a sewing class, and then I took a tennis class, and then I took a language class, and I was enrolled in 3 to 5 classes, self-funded, self-directed, at every point in time since I've graduated, ever since. And that's given me emotional excitement and joy and happiness all the time in my life, because the idea of the ability to learn something new every single day is 100% related to my joy, as I think it's related to a lot of people's joy. And you just stop that after your last formalized education. Unless you go out and you seek it yourself. So it made me this full and rich person, but completely always in awe and wonder about the world around me all the time. But then it also gave me a lot of skills, and it gave me the ability to learn things quickly in different environments. And it changed my life, quite honestly. My favorite thing is constantly taking classes and learning, constantly. But I think it has translated into this superpower of mine that is 100% related to my academic success and professional success, which is the ability to learn things across any sort of discipline very quickly and be valuable. And so, highly encourage that you guys all think about that, whether you're doing that enough. Because I think it's these life things that end up being the inputs to why a resume might look a certain way. But those are not the things that anyone really truly thinks about, because everyone is just looking at the output. And I would say that that's probably not been my approach. And when I look at a lot of peers in these environments, people all have some subtle thing about their personalities that make them go after certain things in their life. And I think those things actually end up making them successful, not the actual tangible things that you might see on a resume or a LinkedIn page. I'm signing off, and I'll see you on the next video. So, hi Pooja, and I'm Pooja Bhardwaj, and I am a recent graduate of the Stanford School. So